Hi, I'm Bay Forrest with Focus Ministries, and today we're going to continue our Dunked On series and look at those temptations or sins that can so easily slither into our lives and pull us into things that we would have never dreamed we would have allowed ourselves to participate in. You know, when I was playing for the Phoenix Suns, I remember some of my teammates just kind of blew me away because it was everything I could do to stay in shape and be in playing condition for the tough, grueling schedule that we kept as a professional athlete. But I had teammates that in between games were out partying and they were involved in drugs and alcohol. And I can remember guys coming into the room and passing out on the floor, and I would talk to them and they'd say, "Man, Bay, never again. I'm done. I am through with that." But 3 or 4 days later, they were right back doing the same thing again. And it was just amazing for me to watch as that kind of thing was happening in their lives and how it was devastating and keeping them from being able to be the best they could be. And you know, I know there's probably some of you that are saying, "Bay, I don't even know why we're going there. That's not exactly an area that I struggle with." And I hope that's true. Now, maybe for some of you it is a struggle there, and so we can apply it either way. But for some of you, you're probably thinking, "Bay, drugs and alcohol, that's really not the one that I need to worry about at all." But here's the thing. It really doesn't matter what the area is. The question is, how are we going to deal with these temptations when they come into our lives? Because they can so easily destroy what God has in store for us. And if there's anybody that could vouch for that, it would be Samson. And that story of Samson in my Dunked On book, it's definitely one that I really like. In fact, part of this today I'm going to go ahead and read because I like the way I wrote it better than what I would probably talk it to you. But I want us to look at that life of Samson because Samson was the full package. He was pretty amazing. He was raised in a godly home where they had set him apart at birth. And they had raised him to obey all of the principles and the guidelines that God had set out for him. And he just had everything going for him. Apparently, he was a really good-looking guy. Now, my picture of him is this big old stud of a guy. But the Bible doesn't ever tell us that he was huge. It just says that the Spirit of the Lord would come upon him at times, and it gave him the power and strength that he needed to be able to do battle and to fight for his people. And so here, Samson had everything going for him, but apparently he had a few problems and issues. One of them clearly was pride. And he was apparently a pretty prideful guy, knew he was a good-looking, studly guy, and knew that the women would like that, and that was another one of his problems, the rebellion of the women that he got involved with. And you might remember the first time that he saw a woman that he liked, he told his parents about it, and they said, "But Samson, she's not from the Jewish faith, and we want you to marry somebody from within the Jewish faith." And do you know what his response to his parents was? "Get her for me." Man, that man needed a spanking from his parents, not to even be given some kind of counsel from them. And he went ahead and got involved in that relationship. And you might remember, because of the whole marriage thing and all that was going on, the ceremony that took place, he got involved in some gambling and riddles. And if he didn't tell it right, then he was going to have to pay for this and do that. And he ended up killing people because of that, destroying property. All kinds of bad stuff happened because he wasn't listening to his parents and the instruction from God on what was important and right in his life. But even after that relationship, then he went in to a relationship with a prostitute. And even after the one there, then he continued on, and we all remember the name Delilah. And we remember how she pulled him into such a terrible situation. The Philistines were trying to figure out how Samson got his strength, how he could possibly be that strong to come against so many people and to fight against 3,000 people and kill them with the jawbone of a donkey. And, amazing stories that were told about that in the Bible. And Delilah was told she would be paid a lot of money if she would find out what Samson's secret was. And so sure enough, she started complaining and whining and begging of Samson to tell her the truth, and finally he gave in to that. In fact, I like the way that it's written in my book here, and so I'm just going to read it instead of try to tell that whole story. And it says, "After several unsuccessful attempts to discover Samson's secret to his strength, Delilah finally whined and nagged the truth out of him." What a lesson to be learned from this. If you hang around sin long enough, it will eventually wear you down and cause you to cave in and do things you would never have thought possible. What takes place next is not only sad, but tragic. Look at what it says in verse 20 of Judges chapter 16. And I have it in the book as well. And it says, "Then she called, 'Samson, the Philistines are upon you.' He awoke from his sleep and thought, 'I'll go out as before and shake myself free.' But he did not know that the Lord had left him." Where's the tragedy? A man that the Lord had blessed and used mightily for his glory was now so caught up in sin that he wasn't even aware that God's Spirit had departed from him, leaving him defenseless against his enemies. Oh, what we could learn from that, and the importance of us not being defenseless against our enemy, the devil. And it goes on, it says, if you read the whole story, you know what happened next. Pretty sad. Samson was seized, his eyes gouged out, and he was forced to be a slave to the Philistines. What a vivid and perfect picture of what sin will do to us if we flirt with it. Before we know what has happened, thinking we're still in control, we're blinded by our disobedience and enslaved by the enemy. I wrote next, so what's your Delilah? I'm talking about the weakness or temptation that drains your spiritual strength. Maybe it's a bad habit, pride, critical spirit. Whatever it is, why not deal with it the same way Samson should have dealt with his Delilah? What would I have told Samson? I think my two offerings of advice to him would have been, first, go back to what you know to be truth. His parents had taught him the truth, but he had simply strayed away and decided to do his own thing. How many of us have been taught the truth, but then we've decided to stray away from what we know is truth, and we decide to do things our own way instead? Proverbs 4:20 through 22 says, "My son, pay attention to what I say. Listen closely to my words. Don't let them out of your sight. Keep them within your heart. For they are life to those who find them and health to a man's whole body." That's why Proverbs also tells us that a wise man will seek out and listen to godly counsel. And the second thing I would have told Samson, and I would try to encourage you with the same, when you're tempted to give in to your Delilah, get out of there and don't look back. The next 5 verses of Proverbs 4 tell it like this: "Above all else, guard your heart, for it is the wellspring of life. Put away perversity from your mouth. Keep corrupt talk from your lips. Let your eyes look straight ahead. Fix your gaze directly before you. Make level paths for your feet and take only ways that are firm. Don't swerve to the right or to the left. Keep your foot from evil." Samson did way too much swerving onto rough roads that led to quicksand. You know, that would be my challenge for each of us today, is that we remember what we've been taught, remember what the Word of God has told us, and let's get back on the right track. Let's get back on track where we need to be to make sure that we are chasing after or seeking after God. That's what Proverbs 3, 5, and 6 tells us. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Don't count on your own understanding. In all your ways to look to Him, and He will direct your path. He'll put you where He knows is best for you to be. Next session that we're going to have together, we'll look at the rest of Samson's life, because I'm so thankful that wasn't the end of the story, and there is redemption, there is encouragement from that. But what would my encouragement be today? Let's put our eyes on Jesus, let's walk straight ahead, and let's not be pulled into the quicksand that can so easily suck us in if we get off of the straight and narrow path that God has for each of us.